It was the night before Friday and the Gabba lights weren't on, for the game was at the MCG and the conclusion was foregone. Melbourne have it in the bag, Brisbane never win games here, proclaimed the media numpties to everyone who possessed an ear. However, as they were soon to find, Brisbane kicked the winning score. The Demons gave but a little whimper as the mighty lion roared. Maxie Gawn had a decent crack, old mate Petty talked a lot of but Answorth had the answer. Did you like my play on words there? And the media had an almighty fit. How dare he, they proclaimed. Who even is he, said a few Dees fans. Well, old boys, he's not like Cozzy. He didn't get a ban. Chuck, Bez and Lester went hard. Big Harris led the team. But when the final siren came, Rayner reigned supreme. Some more wordplay there for those playing at home. 22 points was a winning margin. We all know it was really more. The MCG hoodoo was broken again, and we kicked the winning score. Yeah. Oh, welcome to this week.
Yeah, welcome. It feels like it's been ages since the game.
Oh, yeah, I know. Like, so much has happened since then as well. Just like, in life itself. So and being a Thursday night game, it's like, wow.
Yeah, it feels like when the when the Sunday night rolls around, it feels like it's a whole new week, like a whole week's gone past. But, it's only been a couple of days, but it just feels so different to like, a Friday night game or a Saturday night game. It's just crazy how long ago it feels.
Yeah, it's like I went a whole weekend, sort of, I guess, Friday to Sunday without watching any footy. I lie. I watched a game of local footy where I was on Saturday for about 10 minutes.
Right.
But I watched no AFL, no VFL. Barely checked the scores unless someone sent me a message saying, hey, check this score.
Weird weekend of footy overall. I tuned into a couple of games, but there was definitely some results that I wasn't expecting from a lot of other clubs' games.
Yeah, the Adelaide one where they beat Carlton, I was completely off Adelaide. I was kind of up and about a little bit with them start of the season because I think they gave us a little bit of false hope last year, just as football people.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't want them to win too many games and definitely don't want them to beat us or finish above us. But, I thought that, they got issues this year. But, geez, I'm glad that Carlton lost. I mean, that is even better than seeing Richmond lose this week.
So 3 games settled under a goal.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And then some of them, there's a lot of blowouts as well. I'd say 1, 2, 3...
Yeah,
3 blowouts and then 2 fairly competitive games.
The Geelong one was big, wasn't it? I don't know the exact score.
139 to 64, 75-point win.
That's enough about them, I reckon.
Yeah, it's a fairly good wrap up of just the general footy weekend, I think.
Yeah, look, I don't mind it. I mean, like most of what I know about footy this weekend, other than our game, was just from people telling me stuff and me just checking my fantasy scores. And my AFL fantasy team had its first win of the season as well. So
beauty.
But the irony in that is the person I beat had 18 Lions players in their team. So
good Lord.
It was like, I'm happy I won, but I'm sad because and she's such a lovely person as well. So
it's someone you know in real life.
Yeah, good friend of mine. I absolutely love her to death as well. So so first time doing fantasy, so it is what it is.
Yep.
But yeah, so that was good to get a win up on the board, and I think I went up from 18th place in our comp of 20 people to 17th, which was
moving up in the world, mate.
Yeah,
number one pick for you.
Yeah, I'm on the march here. One of my sons is in the comp as well, and he keeps forgetting to pick someone as captain, and keeps forgetting to check who's not been selected this week and putting them on the bench. And he's 19th, so yeah, a bit unusual for him because he actually knows a lot about footy and he understands the game and stats and all that. So hey, I'm in front of him, so that's the bragging rights, eh?
That's it.
So yeah, I was off in the world of very little internet service, very little mobile phone service, and
do you want to just elaborate on what you were doing?
Yeah, so I took my daughter away camping down to Apollo Bay, which is down on the Great Ocean Road, southwest Victoria, probably halfway between Geelong and Warrnambool. Nice. Really beautiful place, and we had this really lovely campsite that we had. It was right on the river. Like, you could almost reach out and touch the river from where we were camped, about 100 metres from the beach. Lots of good fishing, some really interesting. We went for a drive up this mountain. It was like an 8K drive up to the peak, and it was all windy roads, four-wheel drive tracks, and I took a two-wheel drive car up there. I got to within 40 metres of the end, and I was like, that last little bit doesn't look good. I'm turning around.
Oh, wow.
And let me just say, it was just about at dusk, and there was a bit of hillbilly action going on.
Bit of deliverance.
Yeah, we could hear the banjos playing, and we were like, let's get to the base of this mountain pretty quickly.
Jeez.
So I just want to address and talk a little bit about the situation with the media overreacting to Noah Answorth doing a crying motion towards Harrison Petty on Thursday night. So I'm just going to start with this. It seems like the media didn't really want to give us any sort of, what can we call it, any junk time stories or junk stories for so many years. It was like, Brisbane are just this even team with no stars. They're all good guys off the field. They don't really do much. They're boring.
Yeah.
Suddenly, we've got this, they got up to shenanigans in Vegas, which we know didn't happen now. All this stuff about Zorko gets brought up about his previous relationship or whatever. Ironically, around about the time that he's getting married to his beautiful partner that he's with now, who, by all reports from everyone that I've spoken to involved in the club, absolutely reckons she's an amazing person. It's just like, leave the guy alone, get off him. He did his time. And then this thing with Answorth, taunting opposition players, love it or hate it. He didn't use any slurs. He didn't call him anything homophobic. Didn't call him anything racist.
Yeah.
There was nothing transphobic about it. They're the three sort of things that we're pretty hot on, I guess, with slurs and whatever.
Yeah. There's definitely some no-go zones.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything to do with, depression or mental health as well, I'm pretty hot on. As you and I both were with Damien Hardwick a couple of years ago.
Yep.
I think he regretted that pretty quickly anyway. So everyone left him alone pretty quick because it was obvious he knew he shouldn't have said it. But look, what Answorth did to me, it was play on.
Yeah, I think so too. But they've got to have something to talk about. And at that stage, there wasn't much other footy that had been played at that time of the weekend.
Yeah.
So they're kind of making a mountain out of a molehill just for something to talk about on, Friday night footy and all that sort of stuff.
And they would have been sitting there late Thursday night, early Friday morning and going, we got, as Essendon and the Bulldogs, I think it was, we've got a really, probably an unwatchable game coming up tonight.
Yeah. What
can we talk about? And, Noah Answorth was the guy.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was even so much more stuff that happened in that game that I thought was, that would have been talked about a lot more than it was, but they just picked that one for some reason.
Yeah, and so that brings me to the other thing, like Charlie Cameron getting a week's suspension. Look, I can see why he got it. I can understand that's sort of the way they're ruling on that now.
Yeah.
I think he'll appeal.
I think we will too, and I think it'll go all the way to the tribunal. Well, the tribunal, whatever happens. I think, what's that, Tuesday nights usually?
Depends on the games and stuff. But yeah, Tuesday sort of fairly regularly pops up, I think. I think they're probably going to get O.J. Simpson's lawyer from back in 95.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a hot reference at the moment because he just passed away.
Yeah. So I guess back onto the Charlie Cameron thing. Look, a lot of the commentary at the time was pretty positive in our direction from on the Channel 7 feed anyway, from what I can recall, was that, well, Lever had an arm free. He probably hit his head on the ground on his own, not from the tackle. And a lot of guys are doing that now. There's a lot of talk about that.
Yep.
I can kind of see.
I think is so silly. Like, I get that you're trying to, get, the free kick to try and help your team in the game. And I get that. But just
it's such a risk, isn't it?
It's risky, but I hate just that whole culture of faking things to get other people in trouble just to give you a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
I know it's in every sport and it's in, it's all, and it's never going to go away, but it's just one of my bugbears about competitive sports. Just seems so dodgy.
Seems a very Melbourne thing to do, doesn't it? So, yeah, look, I think maybe he'll get off, but I think they'll fight it to the very core.
Yeah, I think it could get downgraded to a fine based on purely one arm not being pinned. I don't think there was a lot of force involved in it. I mean, there's a few things that they could argue to get it downgraded to a fine, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I've seen a bit of talk on the socials that there were a couple of guys in the last couple of weeks who've done similar things that didn't even come under a scrutiny, but then there's been guys who have.
Yep. It's so inconsistent that it's annoying.
Yeah, and it's something that they still need to really work on. Yeah, so I guess that's that from that point of view. But what did you think of the game overall?
Yeah, look, I went into it a little apprehensive. I did tip us to win, but I did tip us to very narrowly win.
Yeah.
So there was always that nagging in the back of my head that, I'm not as bothered by us playing at the MCG. Like, it's not as much of a... Like, I don't write us off when I hear that we're playing at the MCG like a lot of other people do. But one thing that wasn't filling me with a huge amount of confidence was the North Melbourne game. There was a part of me that was going, that was a bit of an easy kill.
Yeah,
so I wasn't really filling myself with a lot of confidence that, they beat them by 70 points. So surely that would mean we're back on track and all that sort of stuff. Like, I needed to see more to believe more. So the way that we played the game, we got off to, it was a pretty good start. And even then, I was still like, there's a chance that we do what we've been doing for a little while now, where we get a little bit ahead and then we kind of just put it back into first gear and we just say, no, don't worry about it. And then we get overtaken. And it just kind of never really happened. We kind of just always stayed pretty well ahead of them until the end of the fourth quarter. And then they kicked, 3 really quick goals.
Yeah.
And then I started to get a little worried.
When that happened, I didn't think they were going to get over us. I still thought we were going to win. But yeah, I was looking at that going, yeah, look, the margin's going to flatter Melbourne a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I was a bit the same with the North Melbourne thing. But one thing I took away from that I didn't bring up last week was when you look at the fact that the 3 main guys in our midfield, Lachie Neale for the 3 quarters he was on, Hugh McCluggage for the whole game, and Josh Dunkley. In that game against North Melbourne, now North's midfield played really well. Like Davies Uniacke and a couple of the young guys, they were really good. But our guys were better. And it was our engine room that did the... I know everybody talked about the forwards, Hipwood with the goals, Danaher with the goals, a couple of other guys chipped in. but someone's got to get the ball to them, and our engine room did that. And against a pretty solid midfield, they were better than solid.
Yeah,
and
it was a good game. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that's what sort of, when I looked at that, like after we had our selection chat and whatever, I was kind of looking at it going, well, yeah, like Melbourne's midfield are pretty good, but Oliver you can't really pick at the moment. But our guys stood up against a pretty strong midfield. And I guess now we're talking about the easy kill too. So Geelong next week, they've played North, had a pretty big easy kill.
Yeah, there's kind of two ways that could go, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. And like our very recent record is okay against them. It's not sensational. We've beaten them a few times. They've beaten us a few times. Other than that one game in the finals when they were just on top of everyone.
I can't recall a time in history where we've ever just been completely dominant on the Cats and ever just them around.
No, and even like I want to go back to the Fitzroy days. I remember there were games where Fitzroy were absolute like bottom of the ladder. Geelong were rampant. You know, that was back when Geelong were kicking 25 plus every week. And Fitzroy would always do okay against them, even at Cardinia Park. They would never win. It was very rare to see a win against Geelong. In fact, I reckon it was probably early 2000s the first time I saw a win against the Cats that I can remember. But they're always competitive. And we've always done sort of okay. You know, even like those losses at Cardinia Park in the last 3 or 4 years have all been like 10, 12 points or less sort of thing.
Yeah, it's been a while since they've blown us off the park. I'd say probably early Fagan era. But I can't even remember any time that we've completely belted them. Because even at our days,
there was one game at the Gabba, not last year, it was probably 21, I'm going to say. Could have been 22. No, I reckon it was 21 probably. There was a game at the Gabba. I reckon we knocked them off by about 40 or maybe 50.
Wow, I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, and I remember like Tom Hawkins had an absolute stinker that night. And I just distinctly remember, so there's a guy I know through a few footy groups on Facebook, and I saw him in the crowd. He's a Cat supporter. He lives in Queensland. He was at the game, and he was abusing Tom Hawkins from the sidelines.
Jeez,
and that's why like that really sticks out to me. But yeah, the game last year as well, like we were on top of them at the Gabba for so long, and then a couple of little things happened, and they got some junk time goals, got within about 2, maybe even got within 1, and then we kicked a couple. If that rings a bell to you, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, definitely sounds like something we do, where we get ahead and then we kind of, get a bit complacent. Yes. I don't know what it is. Do you think it's because it's definitely a pattern? Do you think it's a strategy where they go, we've got a big season ahead, let's not get too carried away. Let's kind of, make sure we don't try and get any injuries. Let's not try and tire ourselves out at the end of the season. Or do you think they're just like they actually are too tired at the end of the game and it just happens naturally?
Yeah.
Or do you think that they get confident and it's like, surely they can't win from here? Like, which of those do you think it is? Because it has to be one of them.
Well, there's, I guess, like training loads. Some teams ramp at different times of the season.
Yeah.
Like, Sydney traditionally, up until probably the last 2 years, didn't really give a damn about the first 5 rounds.
Yeah.
But we don't know what our ramping sort of is. Even if we do it at all, maybe we train with the same intensity all year. But it kind of, when you look at historically, we do probably finish games off better at the end of the season.
Yeah, so, I think we do.
Yeah, so maybe that theory of yours is, well, early on, they're putting the queue in the rack a little bit, saying, well, we've got to get through this year with less injuries and whatever.
Yeah.
And I know Melbourne supporters this weekend on Friday were ranting and raving. Oh, Melbourne played 3 games in 14 days. Rah, rah, rah. Well, so did we. So did everybody else in the comp.
Yeah, exactly.
Newsflash, that's how playing every week works in a competition.
Yeah, but even the commentators were going on about it, like poor Melbourne, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, that's a bit rich.
I know, I heard him say something like that a couple of times, but I didn't think the commentators are too bad. I thought Brian Taylor I had to check a couple of times. Is that really Brian Taylor or the 12th man impersonating him?
Brian Taylor was Brian Taylor, but the rest of them weren't too bad.
Yeah, but I thought, like, he went on his little tangents or whatever, which we can't criticise him for, but I thought he was fairly balanced. Like, I guess when Melbourne started to come back a little bit, he got a bit excited, but not overexcited.
He's fine when, like, if it's Collingwood or Richmond or Carlton, he's shocking. But if
Yeah,
it's any other teams are in the mix and none of those three are, he's not too bad.
yeah, and
He says dumb things, but he doesn't feel like he's rooting for one of the teams.
I was actually surprised by Daisy Thomas. I hadn't really heard much of his commentary. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, BT made fun of him at one point. Did you hear that?
I think he made fun of him a few times.
He was pretty brutal too because he introduced this new segment where it was like five
Yeah.
players that he was watching or five stats or five something, and
like,
he was
Daisy's top four or something like that.
Yeah, it
Wasn't
was
it?
something
Yeah.
like that, and he pointed it out, and then he'd kind of like said his piece, and then he kind of bounced back to BT just so that they're supposed to bounce off each other and keep the momentum going, and then BT kind of went quiet, and then Daisy was like, "Oh, like didn't you like that one, BT?" And he goes, "Oh, that was." See, he said something like really like he put it down a lot.
Yeah,
he
said
it
this
killed
was
the momentum.
He said something about it being originally Daisy Pearce's segment, but they had to go for the second best or something like that.
Yeah, like I don't know, you just like completely killed the momentum and just like I just thought he was really rude to everyone for no reason.
Yeah,
I just don't like him.
yeah, he was having a go at a guy who's really new to the media, really new to the commentary gig in particular,
Yeah.
like as a play-by-play commentator
Yeah.
as well. But look, I thought he was pretty good. I can't remember who. Joe Watson, I think, Joel Selwood.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Joel Selwood. He cuts a lot of criticism. He hasn't got a beautiful sounding voice, and I think that's the problem with a lot of people.
I did think it was funny a couple of weeks ago. I think it was when he was talking about Jack Ginnivan and oh no, it was either Jack Ginnivan or Dacos.
No,
And
I
or
reckon it
possibly
was.
the D word.
I reckon it was Ginnivan because you messaged me about it.
Yeah, and he yeah, and he was basically talking about like him doing like ducking for frees, and then Joel was like, "Oh yeah, I used to make a career out of that."
Hey, you got to get with a winning team sometimes and just go with the flow, don't you? But yeah, look, I mean, the guy obviously knows a lot about football, and like I guess his record as a player and as a captain or whatever is without peer in our generation. I thought we had a lot of guys who really stepped up in the game against Melbourne too. Like, I said the previous week that I thought Bailey and Rayner were building.
Mm.
And I thought Fletcher late in that game against North was starting to build a little bit. He went good early, but just didn't really finish the game off in my opinion. But buddy, how good was Rayner though? Like,
Oh, he was unbelievable. Yeah, he was. At the whole beginning of this season, every episode we've done, we and a few of our guests that we've had on have all said the same thing, and it's we want to see Rayner build, and like he's building up for something. It felt like he was building up for something. We know he's capable of something greater, but he wasn't quite getting there, and then he did it in this game.
yeah, he he got I think 6 clearances in the first half and maybe finished with about 9 or 10 by the end of the game. But like he was smashing packs, he was bursting out of packs, he was wheeling around out of stoppages, and that's the Rayner we want to see, and that's the Rayner we've been waiting. Well, what is it now? Say 6th year in a system.
Yep,
we've been waiting 6 or 7 years to see this. But it's also come down to the coaches. Like, I know you and I have both said several times that probably his best football is as a high half forward, maybe as a third tall, even though he's not really tall.
Yeah, but that's just because that's the bulk of where we've seen him do his best.
Yeah, yeah, and that's right. But like, I really liked him. Getting up and around the mids and working through those packs. I mean, he was, dare I say it, Petrarca-like.
Oh God.
But then Petrarca himself wasn't Petrarca-like.
No, he wasn't. Right? He was very. Actually, I'm not going to say that. That's mean. But he was very player he wasn't like himself. Let's go with that.
He was like, I guess he was like the Petrarca that Rayner used to be. When he was like that guy that we know he's got it, but he's not really delivering right now. That's what he was like. That helped us.
They've been calling him Petrarca Junior since he was drafted.
Yeah,
and he even said that he tries to, model his game on Petrarca. Well, he did when he was drafted. I think in his first year, he was saying that a lot.
Well, he would have come into the under-18 system and heard about Petrarca, the legend of him as an under-18s player, and he would have been like, "How good is this bloke?" And very similar style players, I guess, but took Petrarca a long time to come on as a mid. But him being a bit down, Oliver being down, Oliver was really down. But the other thing on top of that is our guys. We finally had a strategy in the midfield around a stoppage. Like they did to Melbourne what Melbourne do to us all the time. They come around they had guys coming from the back of the stoppage breaking through. Instead of just sitting there waiting for Big O to tap it to them, and they were roving off Gawn. Like Gawn was on fire. But
do you think? Sorry, we're just turning back to the Rayner thing. I'm just before I forget about it. Do you think that this is going to be him for the rest of the season, or do you reckon this is just a one-off and then he'll go back to just kind of being all right again, or like pretty like handy but not great again for the rest of the season?
History says option 2.
Yeah.
But do we sit here and think about what's happened previously and think that's how it's always going to be, or do we put the faith in the boys? Say, listen, this is what the coaches or whoever go to him and say, look, this is what we've been waiting this time for. You've done it. We've given you the chance to play pretty much nearly a full game as a mid. You've turned up. The ball's in your court to keep doing it. I want to see him keep doing it.
Yeah,
because I really like him. Like when he's on, he's beautiful to watch.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say something that you probably do know, and most of the people listening probably do know, but some of them may not. Rayner has been on the list long enough now that next year he's a free agent.
Yeah.
Which is kind of mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I had a feeling
that he's already at that stage.
Yeah, I had a feeling that would be coming up because obviously Berry and McCluggage are at that level this year.
He was the year after them, yeah.
Yeah, he was drafted the year after. So that doesn't surprise me at all. I hadn't really put any thought into it, but it was more like, at some stage Rayner's going to be sort of not far behind Berry because there's a lot of talk about Berry at the moment in the media.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but a lot of the people in the media seem to have this feeling that he's more gettable than McCluggage.
I probably would agree with that, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he loves being up there. So.
Oh no! Yeah. I'll say I don't think that he's leaving, but I think he's more gettable than McCluggage is.
Yeah, I kind of see your point there. Look, Berry. So speaking of Berry, he was good.
Yeah, it was much better.
I would probably put that up in one of his best games he's played for us.
I would say that for a good amount of the boys on the team for that game, actually.
Yeah, I like the
especially
guys.
Rayner.
The guys down back were great.
Oh yeah.
I can't like if someone said to me, give a 3-2-1 on the back line only, I couldn't do it. I could do a 6-5-4-3-2-1, but it would be in no particular order. But watch this space on that because I've got a little thing coming up on a backline player.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
because I thought Starcevic, who had a pretty slow start to the season, started to pick up and had a much better game.
Yeah, definitely.
Harris Andrews is just always golden.
Oh yeah,
God, he's so essential.
Yeah, he is that guy that you give the buddy contract to, I reckon.
Yeah, and then we've got Benjamin Button Leicester, just aging backwards.
Yep.
And Wilmot had some good moments. He had some good tackling pressure, good speed. He did a lot of the things that he's in the team to do. He did them well.
Yeah. And he also, dare I say it, it's a term I hate hearing, but he lowered his eyes at one point when he kicked inside 50.
Yeah.
I still don't even know what that term means, and I've been around football for 40 years, so
True.
Yeah, but well, I mean, Payne on Ben Brown, I thought
even Payne was doing pretty well for someone that didn't have a great end to last year and didn't have a great beginning to this year.
Yeah,
he had a noticeably good game. Like his intensity for tackling and stuff was much higher. He's one of the guys that in the past he's done some pretty weak tackles, and guys usually break out of his tackles, and he doesn't do the second effort to chase them down. He kind of just lets them go. I thought he did really well this time.
Yeah, and he was a bit of a late developer to footy as well, being athletics and whatever else, and being such a big guy. It does take a bit longer to develop. But I thought his last 2 games have been really good.
Yeah,
especially this one. Who else did we have down back? Ainsworth was good.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he was. Obviously, there's the whole controversy around him. I thought he did a pretty good job. His disposal has picked up tremendously, so much so that they interviewed him and wrote an article about it in the week leading up to it.
Yeah, and they mentioned it in commentary as well. It was one of the special comments guys. Might have been Selwood, might have been Joe Watson. Geez, I hope it was Joe Watson. There's about 3 guys that sound exactly the same to me.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
Jimmy Bartell and Joe Watson, when they've got a microphone, I can't tell the difference.
All those guys look the same anyway.
Yeah, Victorians all the same, don't they? And speaking of which, there's a bit of hoo-ha about Rhys Mathieson playing footy up in Darwin. I did, on one of my brief occasions where I was able to get the internet to work where I was, I had a bit of a to and fro with a boy from Darwin. He was having a whinge that Matho was playing up there in their season and taking the place of a local boy, sick of seeing Victorians and all this. And I commented to him, well, mate, you're probably in primary school when Matho left Victoria, so, give it a rest.
Yeah. What is he doing up there, though? Because I'm surprised. I thought he was doing quaffle stuff.
Well, the season's finished in Darwin now anyway. It's well and truly finished. So I'd say he's probably back at Wilson Grange. I think that's where he was playing.
Yep.
But the other thing is, have you seen a photo of him lately?
Can't say I have, no.
There's one getting around on the socials at the moment. It must be from his Insta or something. And he is jacked to the max. Like, he looks like a bodybuilder at the moment. He's got arms as thick as a tree trunk, probably as thick as my whole body.
I was dead set. As soon as I knew that we were delisting him, I was like, someone's going to pick him up. Like, another AFL team's going to pick him up. How could they not? And then no one did. I was stunned.
There's so much talk down here about Essendon being into him.
Yeah.
And him and Darcy Parish being best mates from childhood as well. It kind of made a bit of sense. But, yeah, just never eventuated. And
he would be great for one of the developing teams. I know that, obviously we always used to just say, just give him to the Suns, give him to the Suns. Obviously the Suns don't really need a guy like that anymore. They're kind of over their rebuild and they're kind of coming up. But, North Melbourne or Hawthorn or West Coast, one of those teams would really benefit from him.
Yeah, well, I think I said when Alicia was on for the first ever episode that I thought like Matho and even because we didn't know what Jared Lyons was sort of going to be up to because he gave me a bit of a vague answer when I asked him the day after the grand final if he was sticking around.
He might not have honestly known at that point.
Yeah, he wouldn't have had his exit meeting at that stage. And I sort of said to Alicia, Matho and Lyons and maybe, I don't know, there's one other guy I mentioned. It was probably one of the young WA boys that was out of contract. And I said, the Eagles you would think they'd be falling over themselves to get guys who can come and pinch hit in the midfield for them while they're draftees. Because obviously, everyone knew, in Harley Reid, no matter what the media said.
Yeah.
Harley Reid and Elijah Hewitt and Ruben Jimby. I mean, Ruben Jimby's massive, but those guys need time to develop in their midfield. And I thought, Matho and Lyons could be good guys to come and pinch it for a couple of years with Elliot Yeo and Tim Kelly, bigger bodies, definitely. Stronger, And obviously, Matho, like culturally, the guy's amazing. Like everyone loves him. Everyone wants to be his mate. He works hard. Like he works hard on the training track and in the gym, and really away from the football field, I've never heard a bad word about him.
No, neither have I. And I am honestly stunned that he's not on an AFL list somewhere right now.
And look, he may get another chance. He may, from what I hear, his time up in Darwin wasn't overwhelming. But it's Darwin. It's
I mean, he might nominate for the mid-season draft or something like that.
Yeah, there could be an opening for him somewhere, and good luck to him. I hope he gets a second chance. He, the guy stuck it out when he wasn't getting a game for a long time.
Yep.
And he previously got delisted and redrafted to the club as well as a rookie.
Yeah.
Didn't crack the SADs. He stuck around. He said, right, that's it. I'm going to work harder on the track, get bigger and stronger, try and get a bit faster. Probably didn't work on his disposals enough, but I mean, look, he's not the only one in the AFL in this day and age that needs to work on that.
No, definitely not.
It's probably a vast majority of guys. So but I guess is there anything else to say about without getting into the ticks and crosses just yet? Is there anything else to say about the game?
I don't think so, without crouching on the ticks and crosses area. But I will say one just quick interesting fact is that I've got the whole round here in front of me.
Yeah.
And Melbourne scored the second lowest of any team for the whole round.
Well, that's 2 weeks in a row that our defence has absolutely stifled a team.
Yeah. Only Hawthorn scored lower with 56 compared to Melbourne's 60.
Yeah, so Melbourne were around about the 3 or 4 goal mark at three-quarter time?
Yeah. Well, they kicked 3 late goals in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So they were dangerously close to being at a really embarrassing score.
Yeah. And, normally I will look at it if we're sort of, 20, 30 points up at halftime, I don't look at that as, we're going to run away with this. I look at it and go, okay, are we going to run away with this? Not we are going to run away with this. Thursday night, I looked at it and said, Melbourne have done this before. They've run us down from this position numerous times. Not just that game last year, but also there was a game at the Gabba 22 where I think we were 30-something points up and they absolutely destroyed us. It was nearly a 70-point turnaround.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, but this time I looked at it and said, you know what, I think we've got this, but the margin might be a little bit less at the end because we do tend to slack off a bit at times.
Yeah. So we kicked 2 goals in the last quarter.
Yeah.
And they kicked They kicked 5 and we kicked 2 in the last quarter.
Yeah, because I thought they kicked a couple early. I think Gorn was he was on fire at that stage as well. And instrumental in a couple of goals. I think Ben Brown even got one, which
he did, yeah. He kicked one just after the start of the fourth quarter, and then Bailey kicked one basically straight away after that. And then it was pretty even until Charlie kicked another one. And then there was a lot of behinds. Dawn kicked one. And then we missed a lot of behinds. Charlie and Link both missed a couple, and then they got a couple of cheeky ones from Fritsch and Lever right at the end.
Fritsch is that guy everyone loves to hate, but they'd love to have him on their team, I reckon.
Yeah.
He's he does the the freaky stuff. Obviously, they're playing him as a key forward when he's probably not a key forward size. Or it's not really the way he plays the game, but what did he kick? 5 or 4 or something in the grand final, but every time I see him, I think of Beavis and Butthead.
I can't not see it since you pointed it out.
Yeah, it's like something you can't unsee. It's there, but yeah, look. Overall, I thought it's a pretty solid hit out against a team that had been performing much better than us leading into it.
Yep, I think that's fair.
Yeah. So I believe you're on ticks this week.
Yeah. Oh, just quickly as well, just
Yeah.
a weird note that I just thought of. What do you make of Tunstall not coming on at all? We didn't activate him as a sub the entire game.
Can we put that as a watch this space?
Okay.
Because I have that in my notes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
move on to the ticks and crosses then, eh?
Yeah, you go into your ticks and then
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so first one's a bit of a silly one, but it's actually it is important when you think about it. But we won the toss. You can't underrate winning the toss and getting to pick, especially at an intimidating ground as the MCG is, as they like to remind us. So,
yeah, and the crowd, like I think we had a louder crowd for most of the game, but at the start, all the Melbourne people were probably still putting the cheese boards back in the MCC long room or whatever. But
yep.
when Harris won the toss, the massive cheer went up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, is that us or them? It's probably us."
I would assume it was us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my second tick is effort. Effort was right through the roof. The pressure rating was through the roof. It was just good, and it sustained for almost the whole game up until about the last 10 minutes. But I'm willing to write off the last 10 minutes as just a boys were tired kind of thing.
Yeah.
But effort was there throughout the whole game. Big tick. I've been asking for it since the start of the season, and it hasn't really been there. Even last week when we smashed North, like there was moments where we went really quiet and we didn't look like we cared as much. But
yeah, like there was a period in the third quarter of that game, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a few, and it was kind of annoying where it just felt like the effort wasn't there. Like the boys weren't that invested in winning. Like so it was good to see the effort just constant in this game. So that was great. The third tick is skills. Skills were up. We didn't spray as many. Like we had some missed shots on goals and stuff like that. But I felt like the field kicking and the goal kicking was a bit more accurate than it's been in the last couple of weeks. Just like not as many obvious horrible turnovers in the field as there has been in the last couple of weeks as well. And the boys capitalizing on turnovers that Melbourne were doing as well.
Yeah, and I guess with the last 2 points you've brought up as well, I was having a look at like the ranking points. We had like 13 of the top 16 players in the ranking points, and like Max Gorn was the first ranked, but then the next 11 were our guys.
Yep.
And that showed to me, normally we might have 2 or 3 in the top 10.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's massive.
Yeah. So like that shows that like across the board, like you said, the effort, and it was a continuous, sustained effort as well.
Yeah. And my fourth tick is second efforts. There was a lot of them, and I mentioned some players before that aren't really famous for their second efforts, and I've called out in the past for being not lazy, but just they'll put an arm out instead of laying a tackle. They don't do a proper tackle, and all the tackles get broken. If someone runs away from them, they'll just kind of give up and go, it's someone else's problem. So I didn't really see much of that in this game. There was a lot. The second efforts were through the roof, and it was just a massive effort from the boys, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, and with Berry too, like Berry was hitting blokes. He wasn't just running next to him, waving his arms around like a bird. He was,
and he has done that a lot in the past. And he's one of the guys that I call out. And Payne's another one where his tackles usually don't stick, and he just kind of puts an arm out to the side. One of my big pet peeves, not just for him, but just for any guy that just puts an arm out instead of trying to actually tackle.
Yeah, and Bailey broke a few tackles as well. Like, he gets caught a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of broke. He broke a few where I was watching and think, oh, he's going to get hauled down here, but nope.
Yeah, he
He got through
wasn't.
'em.
Like I know he kicked a goal late and all that sort of stuff, but he wasn't one of my better performers for the night. Because he was still doing silly things like that. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work, and I wonder if it's ever going to come on for him, or if he's just going to be that guy that tries to do it forever, and it doesn't work more than it works.
Yeah, I think when your team's winning and you've got a really big, even spread of performers, you can get away with being a bit flashy like that.
Mm.
Bailey's not at Ackermanis level. Not many guys are. But
No, but
like
sometimes it feels like he tries to put the highlight reel before actually getting the result.
it's a bit more noticeable at the moment because we haven't been going as well. But
True.
yeah,
And my fifth and final tick is just Cam Rayner.
yeah,
He was just elevated through to a higher level that he's been at for a long time, and I've been waiting for that to arrive for a long time, and it's been a long road. We've always known where his ceiling is at, and possibly even higher than what we think it's capable of. So to see him have a fantastic game was really, really good and very satisfying.
yeah. Like it's just it warmed the cockles of my heart and even the
Mm.
sub cockles. There's a quote for you. Uh, yeah, don't call me the other part of that song. Um, yeah, no, like what can you say? Like that that's something we want to see every week now. And I hate it when
Yeah,
people say that on social media. Oh, we need to do it every week now. But that's the only thing I can say now is I want to see it from him. I know he can do it.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, we're past the stage of, he's just coming into his own and all that sort of stuff. As I said before, he's a free agent next year. He's in the middle of his career right now,
Yeah,
honestly.
and he's a boy from Melbourne. I know his mum and his brother live up in Queensland, but money talks, mate.
Yeah, but like, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. But then again, surely not all these boys who are, these big contracts often in front of them, not all of them are going to stay, surely. I mean, that would be fantastic, but I'm a
Yeah,
realist, not a,
you're always going to lose a couple along the way.
of course.
You're going to lose a couple of good ones along the way. But like Swanee said the other night that we had a lot of room in the salary cap for McCluggage,
Mm.
and that they've been planning for the day when McCluggage and those guys sort of come on a bit and want new deals. So
Yeah, but for all of them or just McCluggage? Because we got Barry, Rayner, Bailey, all going to be out of contract around the same time.
I felt that he kind of generalised, but the commentators in the footy, oh no, well, post game might have been, were like, oh yeah, they've been saving money for this moment with McCluggage.
Mm.
So you don't know who to believe, but I got the vibe from Swanee that it was more, planning for, I guess, guys are going to drop off the perch a little bit as they get older.
Yeah.
Might have had big front-ended contracts, and now they're not getting the money they were.
Yep.
And guys like McCluggage and Rayner and so forth may, if Rayner and Berry come on a bit more, they may. I mean, who knows? Someone's going to make an offer to Berry.
Oh yeah, they'd all be having offers to them. I mean, the Hawks are allegedly offering McCluggage $1.3 million.
Yeah, I did hear that, but like allegedly is the word.
Allegedly being a word, yeah.
Like, and this is the thing. Like, if
I think
you're
McCluggage's manager told me that actually.
Oh, there you go. Directly.
Yeah.
Has he even got a manager? Like
those are the ones that spread all the rumors. It's always the manager going, "Oh, did you hear he's worth 1.5 million?" Like, oh, is he? He's like, "Well, I think he should be because I get a percentage cut on that."
Yeah, it's like McStay was going to get over $1 million a year and turned out to be more in the vicinity of about 550, 600. But
hey, I would not be turning my nose up at that amount.
Well, he wasn't going to get that at Brisbane, and he wasn't going to get that length of contract. So that's the thing. But like, if you're a good list manager, and you're looking at a guy who's been on a list now for 6 or 7 years, whatever it is, played around about 100 games, played a lot of finals, you're going to at least talk to him and say, look, this is what we can give you if you are interested.
Yeah.
You'd be crazy not to. I mean, yeah, we do it every year, our guys. So I guess we'll jump into I'm on crosses. So
Yep.
my first one, it's one I've touched on before. It's the media
Okay. Yep.
and their witch hunts. It's not just with us either, but at the moment it's us. Like they just overblow stuff so much that it gets social media runs with all these things, and Fox Footy or 7AFL, whichever one it was, did like 4 posts about Ainsworth, just repeating the same thing. And the other one, like, they keep putting these stories up. Oh, we have new, never before seen photos and information about the Vegas trip. And then it's like, you look at it and it's actually telling you exactly what they told you 2 weeks ago. There's nothing new. There's no photos. There's only a photo of all the boys in those cowboy hats, which we all know my thoughts on that.
Yep.
It's probably the only crime committed in the United States was those boys wearing those hats and and Tom Fullerton wearing that shirt.
Oh God, yeah.
And then there's there's trouble in paradise with the Neil family, and then you read it and it's just Jules Neal saying how much she still loves being married to Lockie. It's like, well, that's not trouble in paradise, you nuffies. Get off it.
Yeah.
So
look, I just want to make a prediction for the AFL 360 talking point for the week going forward. I reckon it's actually not going to be us. I reckon they'll probably touch on the Noah Answorth stuff a little bit, and obviously they'll touch on the Charlie Cameron stuff. They'll, especially if we take it to the tribunal and all that sort of stuff. But I think the talking point is going to be now that the Eagles have smashed Richmond to pieces.
Yep.
They're going to tear Richmond to pieces, and they're going to go the rebuild starting now and the end of an era and all that sort of stuff.
The rebuild. I mean, that narrative just. It's Richmond. We're not meant to like them, but
no, I can't stand Richmond or Collingwood. That's no secret on this podcast.
Let's be real. The rebuild isn't about to start. It's been going on for a couple of years.
Yeah.
They probably hung on to a few guys too long, like we did back in 04, 5, 6. But
there are a lot of similarities.
Yeah, and again, when you're up the top for so long, you don't have good draft picks, unless you trade guys out that are good and you get something good for them. But when you're winning flags, you don't want to. You only want to lose guys if there's a problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've still got Dustin Martin still there, but
he's pretty cooked now.
He's cooked. Lynch is younger, but his body just is never right.
I don't think Lynch is that young, to be honest.
He's younger than the other guys.
Wasn't he an original son? Or
I don't think he was a foundation son.
Okay, but he was pretty close.
He was fairly early on. Yeah, he'd be late 20s, maybe. It'd be like 29, 30, I want to guess.
Yeah, and so he's probably a couple of years away from playing for Geelong, I guess. But
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
My next cross, Harrison Petty. Mate,
the floor is yours, mate. Go ahead.
My first thing I got to say to him is, mate, shut up. Every time the ball was up our end, the cameras would pan back to our defensive area, and he would be mouthing off at someone.
Yep.
So I set up a drinking game in the Facebook group. It was like, right, every time the camera pans on Harry Petty and he's mouthing off at someone, you have to scull a cup of tea, Fagan style.
Yep.
Because he loves a good cup of tea. And
he does. Can't beat a cup of tea, man.
No, you can beat an egg, apparently. But yeah, like the guy, he just mouths off, and then plays the victim when he gets it back.
Yeah, he's going to be one of those guys when his career's, over next year. He's going to be remembered for his on-field drama more than he's ever going to be remembered for any of his skills or any of his contributions to games.
Yeah.
He's going to be that guy that caused all of the drama and all that sort of stuff. That's what he's going to be remembered as.
The guy had 2 kicks for 0% disposal efficiency.
Yeah.
So maybe work on actually learning how to kick the ball, mate, instead of shooting from the lip.
Yeah.
Especially
rough when we were talking about that after the game. I haven't seen that in a long time for any player.
And especially against like the guys we've got down back. They're always hard as a cat's head, every single one of them.
Yep.
Like, none of them are going to cop that. They're not going to sit there and go, oh, geez, this guy's intimidating me with his big words. No. Give it a rest.
Yeah, exactly.
My phone keeps... I've got my notes on my phone and it keeps keylocking on me. So Melbourne fans. Melbourne fans came out Friday morning and were like, oh, I've never heard of Noah Answorth. Who is he? He's not that good, rah, rah, rah. And then they're like, oh, Noah Answorth's pretending to cry because that's what he did during the grand final last year. Well, for starters, he didn't play.
No.
Because Kitty Coleman played the game of his life and they played the same position.
Mm-hmm. God, I miss Kitty.
Oh, I shouldn't have brought him up because I feel bad now. But, like, the way they carry on, and, look, I'll give them one thing. Yeah, the ones who said that they got a raw deal with the umpires, I thought we really got looked after by the umpires. We got the rubber to green a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there were a lot of touch-and-go things went our way, and there was a couple with them where it's like the one with Oliver where he handballed it and he got pinged for holding the ball. And I'm like, man, he handballed that. That was a legitimate handball, but you know what? I'm taking it.
Yeah, well, it feels like we've been unlucky for a lot of the 50-50s. Not like I don't think we've been bullied by the umpires. I don't think there's some kind of conspiracy or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think we get fairly unlucky when it comes to 50-50 calls a lot.
Yeah.
Especially in the last couple of weeks. So it was good to see it go the other way for a change.
Yeah, and that's right. But like other than that, like they just wins and they're getting into Answorth and they're bringing up the Zorko stuff again, and then they're carrying on. Oh, look at you, Brisbane. You couldn't even finish us off and all this. And I'm thinking maybe go and have a look at your own team. Like 19 out of your 23 guys did absolutely jack for the whole game.
Yep. Like, mate, if they didn't have, you could remove one player from that game from Melbourne side, Max Gawn.
Yeah.
And it is a slaughter.
Yeah, I mean, look, Ed Langdon got a lot of the ball and like his stats sort of look pretty good, but I don't think he was effective.
No.
Stephen May got a lot of fantasy points, but he spent the whole game pulling Eric Hipwood's arms behind him. So
yeah,
that's what and how good was it when McCarthy smothered that kick of his?
Oh yeah.
Like I reckon every Brisbane fan and probably every Gold Coast fan punched the air when that happened.
It's another foundation, son.
So yeah, Melbourne fans, like other than your in-laws, none of us, and my stepbrother, none of us knew any Melbourne fans until 3 years ago. And
That's true.
They were fairly reasonable after they won the premiership, but in the last year or so, I don't know, they just gone to.
It was kind of funny because, like, they, what was it like? It was 50-something year drought between flags, wasn't it? So they were very appreciative and they weren't, super cocky or arrogant just after the flag. But you're right. In the following years, that's when they got really obnoxious and annoying.
Yeah.
Not the ones I know in real life. They've been, they see that it's just a game and it's not that big of a deal and all that sort of stuff. But online, like, they were so quiet until, last year, basically.
Yeah, and they keep bringing up the MCG hoodoo. Well, the last 3 times we've played them at the MCG, we beat them. We lost by 1 point and we beat them.
Yep.
And they still bring it up after we beat them on Thursday night. Oh, you can't win at the MCG. Hey, we did last night against you. Like, come on.
Yep.
What do you got for that? So,
well, it's a weird season because now we're smashing it at the MCG, but we can't win at home.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Sydney did that a few years ago too. They lost like nearly all their games at the SCG one year and like won all their Victorian games. It was really weird.
Very bizarre.
I don't want us to do that this year. So if anyone from the club
we'll have to move back to Fitzroy if it keeps up.
Yeah, well, if anyone from the club is listening, and I know some of them do.
Ooh.
Just between you and me.
Oh, okay. Spicy gossip?
No, not really. I'm
still amazed that there's even one person that listens to this show, mate.
Oh, Hey, I even listened to our latest episode when I was at work on Friday. While I was at work, like I listened back to them obviously when I'm cutting and shutting and that, but I went back and just played the episode from start to finish while I was driving around at work, and yeah, it was good. Jules was good. I really enjoyed having her on.
She's great. I love Jules so much. She's great.
Like from the moment I first came across her, we just hit it off so well.
Yeah.
And like she's told me to pull my head in a couple of times on a couple of little things, and I've known like she's not doing it to be like to attack me. She's doing it because she can see that she sees where I'm coming from.
She's very genuine.
Yeah, she can see where I'm coming from, but she can also see that I'm wrong, and I don't mind being told I'm wrong if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And so that's. So
she's a great footy fan, and she's a great mum as well, and a great friend.
Oh yeah, like just a beautiful person all round.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly.
So my next one, and this is where I said watch this space. So our use of the sub, and it's something that comes under question a lot, not just with the Kai Loman situation, but like even last year, guys, Jared Lyons a couple of times to come on with 1 minute to go, or
that was so
like the grand final he came on really late, and Loman, Dev Robertson a couple of times I think. And Thursday night, how many minutes did Jimmy Tunstall play?
0.
Yeah, like
he did not come on for a second.
What was the
either
point?
Forgot about him, or I don't know what was going on.
I mean, who does he come on for? Well, that's a question that you can ask. But he's there. He's flown all the way to Melbourne. He's flown to Adelaide. He's flown back to Brisbane, then down to Melbourne, and he's played 1 quarter of football in that period of time. Like, get him on.
I think the most annoying part of that from probably Jimmy or anyone else in that position's point of view was that they have to stay mentally ready the whole time. Yeah, and they got to stay warmed up the whole time. It's not like, in the emergencies, at the beginning of the game, they go, all right, you guys aren't needed. Chuck your polos on. You can go sit in the stands and you can just watch the game and you don't have to worry about anything. You can watch it as a fan. The sub has to be ready to physically jump in at any moment. So they have to be paying attention to what's going on in the game. They have to be listening to the coach's instructions. They have to be warmed up on the treadmill, ready to go.
Yeah.
And for him to be doing that the entire game, just for them to go, we didn't need you. Also, you have to run 8 laps to the oval or whatever it is they make them do at the end of the game to get the Ks up.
And then you've got to stay down here an extra day.
Yep.
Waiting for the VFL boys to fly down.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming they flew down on Saturday probably.
Yep.
So he would have. Well, what's he going to do? He's not from Melbourne. He's from WA.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do in Melbourne for a day and a half pretty much almost on his own?
Fair to say that and I know this isn't a unique problem to our club, but I know the Bulldogs fans have been going off about how their subs have been treated. We don't use the sub as well as we could be using the sub. No. I don't know what the strategy is based on what we're doing with our subs.
But even like with the usage of Darcy Ford as the sub a few times last year.
Yeah.
Like I defended it at first. I was like, well, what if Danaher or Hipwood or Big O go down? Or even like one of the big key defenders go down. Well, Danaher and Hipwood can't defend. That's not their game.
I get the logic behind it, but it's just you're preparing for a worst case scenario when most likely the person that's going to get injured is someone who is a versatile, medium-sized player, that could either be a small forward, a midfielder, or a rebounding defender. So it's a lot easier to juggle the smaller guys around than it is to juggle the bigger guys around. Because what are you going to do? Like if Joe does, a calf or something like that, you're not going to pull Harris Andrews out of defence to cover him.
Yeah, well, we pulled Jack Payne out once, but when someone wasn't doing well, but it's not. You basically your sub needs to be an everyman.
Yeah.
Jack of all trades, as I think you might have said.
And the tall guys are usually not, unless their name is Mark Blitzarps, but we don't have a Mark Blitzarps.
Yeah. So my last cross.
Okay.
We did bring this up a bit. We brought it up a couple of times throughout the year. Is the junk time goals to the opposition?
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it?
Late in quarters.
Frustration.
And that was I recall that was an issue back in the Premiership era as well sometimes. So I don't obviously the two eras aren't connected in that regard, but it just seems to be something that, inaccurate kicking for goal and junk time goals by the opposition seem to be our thing. It's like our trademark.
Yeah, and I hate it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're going to bring up the kicking for goal in the VFL report.
Yep, I sure am. You can see that one coming from a mile away, couldn't you?
As soon as I looked on the socials when I got home, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a subject that's coming up tonight."
Yep.
So
we'll get there.
Yeah, before we get to the VFL, I guess we'll do the players of the week, one each.
Yep, it's probably going to be a pretty obvious one tonight.
Well, for you, I'm going a different way, so I'll go first.
Okay, go on.
So I'm going to give big shout outs to obviously to Rayner. He was he was amazing. Probably should be getting the big tick here, but he's obviously now he's not from me. Chuck, I thought Chuck really stood up compared to his previous weeks. Berry, Harris was Harris. Berry stepped up. Zorko was Zorko. Dunkley's been a lot more attacking, getting a lot more of the ball in the last few weeks. And as I said about Bailey, I thought he started to build a little bit. He's still got a bit to go. And I thought Big O was a lot better this week as well. I think Gorn being so good probably made us forget about Big O, but I thought he was pretty good. But I'm giving my player of the week this week to a bloke who's been ultra consistent all year. So he's got the body of work, but I thought he really stood up on Thursday night. That's Ryan Lester.
Ooh, okay, all
right. Yeah, and he has his critics and whatever.
I'm usually one of them.
Yeah, you've been known to be one in the past, but I think
in the past, not so much this season.
I think you're softening a bit.
I am.
You're coming around to him, and
I am.
I've
always liked him as a bloke. I've always thought he was top tier bloke, and just possibly, not even possibly, he is the best Lion when it comes to fan interaction as well.
Oh, look, I reckon he, as a person, he's god tier.
Yep.
He's above top bloke. He's god level. As a footballer, he's obviously not a god level, but
no,
he's reliable. He's versatile. He's adaptable. All those words that we love at the Brisbane Lions.
Yep.
But
all the ones that are written on a whiteboard somewhere,
Yeah. They're probably, where they touch the gloves on the way out, they're probably written on the wall above that. It's good. Yep. I like it. Every club has his catchphrases, and they're not bad ones.
No.
But I just felt like he just showed me something. And I was messaging one of my sons. He was at his mum's house, and we're messaging each other for the entire game. And I just kept saying, I'm giving Lester BOG tonight. And he's like, explain, and I'd explain what I'm saying now. I just felt he really stood up, and everyone's going to have an opinion on him. Some people just refuse to acknowledge that his football has improved out of sight and that he's a valuable member of the team. That's their business, not mine. I don't care.
Yeah.
He gets my player of the week this week. He's probably not getting named in the best 5 or 6 by the club every week, but I think he's in there.
Yeah, look, I think it's a good choice. He's certainly one of the better players that I would have listed. If we were doing a top 5, he probably would have been in there somewhere. But mine, it has to be Cam Rayner for me. I was thinking about a few other guys. Obviously, Lockie Neal had a great game again, as he always does. 8 clearances for him, 24 touches.
Yep.
But Rayner literally one-upped him. So he got 1 more clearance and 1 more touch than him. But I'm saying that he's the player of the week, not just because he did slightly better on the stats than Neal, but because his impact you could feel it more. And you could... And it's someone that I've wanted to have a big game for a while, and he finally had a big game. And I think he was very impactful.
Seeing him burst through stoppages and just it was like he was carrying the team on his back.
Yeah.
And I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. He was our best player on the night.
Yep.
He was our most inspirational player. Ideally, if we had to just say, all right, the best player every week on the ground, the best guy, the most stats or most goals or whatever gets this selection, I would have gone with him without even hesitating.
Yeah, but I think, to be fair, I think a lot of podcasts do that, and they go, the stats say that this guy was the best, so he's the best. But it's more than that to me. It's more about who do you think who do you think went above and beyond and played a better game than they normally did, or put a team first effort in, or all these other things, not just, oh, well, technically he got a 30-man, his fantasy score was really high, so that means that he was a really good player on the night. Like, that stuff it's not as important to me.
Yeah.
I'm never going to just pick the best stat guy for my player of the week.
Yeah, well, that's it. And, I guess, you go to a local footy level and it's not always going to be the guy that gets 40 and, the guy who used to play in the VFL and comes down to local footy and gets 40 that gets the $20 bar voucher or the meat tray every week. It's those heart and soul sort of meat potato kind of guys. And that to me is Leicester. But yeah, again, Rayner, you can't argue with him getting the port. So I think he gets a 3-vote job Brownlow night as well.
I think so. And I mean, look, if we were just picking on AFL Fantasy, then apparently Dunkley, Berry, Zorko, Cameron, Bailey, McCluggage all had better games than Rayner. And I don't think that they did.
So what I've been doing, just as a little side project, every week I do like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just based on fantasy rankings of our players.
Mm-hmm.
And Dunkley is a million miles in front of everyone.
Yep.
It's like Dunkley, Zorko, Danaher or something like that so far.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it down in my notebook, but I actually took it away with me this weekend because I'm working on something else and I left the notebook in my car. So, but Dunkley's a million miles in front of everyone. I think he's got like 3-5 voters.
Yeah, I believe that.
But yeah, I don't think anyone sits back and goes, well, Dunkley dominated the game and carried everyone on his back. It's more Dunkley went out there and did his job.
Yeah, and he did his job really well. And he has a very specific role in the team, and he's really good at doing that.
And
but he's not going to win a Brownlow doing it, but he's going to help us win games by doing it.
Yeah, and so on his thing he does with Adam Treloar, I listened to it again so no one else has to. It wasn't too bad, but like he was sort of talking about how his last year at the Bulldogs he kicked 19 goals. There was a year he won their best and fairest. And he's sort of saying like he's down on that output with us, but his role doesn't necessarily call for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's...
Well, I mean, Beveridge had him rucking at one point, so they just didn't know what to do with him at all.
And Beveridge had him rucking. He had him like in a forward pocket. Wasn't picking him other weeks. And yeah, God, Beveridge... Oh. All right, well, I guess, do you want to get on to the VFL?
Yeah, we'll do a quick VFL wrap-up because this is already going on for
for
quite a while already. So we'll do a quick... did you watch the game?
No, I haven't watched it.
Don't recommend it.
Got home too late. So, yeah, so we lost by a point. I guess I was getting some score updates late in the last quarter. Had a bit of a look on the socials when I got home. Had a bit of a look at the stats. Looks like Lyons and Robertson had big games stats-wise. Few people on the social said Sharp and Tunstall looked pretty good.
Should we address the elephant in the room about the game?
Go for it.
So we lost by a point, so 76-75, and we kicked 9 goals, 21 behinds.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it's not good at all.
It's not even bad. It's worse than bad.
It's horrendous. The amount of... We had so many more opportunities, and like you could see that by just seeing the scoreline. They kicked 12-4, we kicked 9-21. You can see that we had much more shots at goals. But even watching the game, we just completely dominated them in terms of like getting the ball from the middle to the forward line. But we just wasted it, kept wasting it. I don't even think most of those are rush behinds. Most of them are just failed attempts to shoot on goal.
Did we have any sort of, I guess, culprits, or was it just like a whole team?
It was pretty mixed, to be honest. I mean, there was a few guys that had pretty decent games. The Brandon Ryan, from the guy we got from Hawthorn, who played his first game for us, he kicked 3.
Yep, I had him in my notes, so I was going to ask you about him.
He was the only multiple goal scorer for us.
Yep.
So he was handy. He didn't look like too flash or anything. He kind of he got the job done. So I'm going to be watching him a bit as the VFL season goes on.
Yep.
There was a ton of other guys that just kind of kicked 1 goal as they, as the game went on. But he was the only one that kind of really had a really good game. Even Logan Morris didn't have a particularly great game, which I was kind of keeping an eye on because I thought maybe, if Charlie gets suspended, we're gonna have to bring a new forward in. Like, who do we bring? We can speculate that later on if Charlie doesn't, if he doesn't get off. But I was keeping an eye on him for that reason, and he didn't have a particularly good game. Not a bad game, just like compared to his first few games where he was like actually a star, he just was all right. There was a few guys in the midfield that had fantastic games. Tunstall again, big tick. Dev Robertson, big tick for me. Sharp was kind of handy, but he was all right. I thought Henry Smith had a fantastic game.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see any mention of him on the socials, but I think he goes under the radar a bit.
He does, but I'm starting to think that he's ahead of Darcy Fort for me in terms of, either being a backup for Oscar or coming in to replace Oscar if he gets suspended or injured or whatever.
Yeah,
I think he's probably overtaking him if he hasn't already.
We did bring that up recently, didn't we?
I think an emergency not too long ago.
I think we brought that up around about the second VFL game of the year.
He also kicked 1 goal, 4 behinds. So
that's been a bugbear for him.
Yeah. But he played predominantly forward because Darcy Fort was the predominant ruck for the game. So he mainly played as a tall forward for the game.
Yep.
But he played well. He got a lot of the ball. His kicking wasn't super accurate.
Yep. So I noticed while we've been having this chat, I had a quick look at a friend's post on Facebook. So a couple of friends Deb, who we had on the show recently, her and a couple of other of my friends came down as a group to Victoria. They went to the game Thursday night. Then they went to the Essendon game, whatever night that was. And then they went to the VFL today. And I noticed that one of my friends, Anita, had a post on Facebook saying that conditions were pretty good. It wasn't cold. It was, it wasn't wet or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was fairly decent conditions for this time of the year in Melbourne at the VFL. So
yeah,
we can't even probably blame that.
No, and I mean, I forgot to mention Jared Lyons. He's got 38 disposals and 11 clearances, which is an impressive stats. But he didn't. It never felt like. I mean, this is what we were kind of talking about before, where we're talking about how Neil always does a really good job, but you don't notice everything that he does compared to like Rayner might do some more explosive things, and they seem like they're more impactful. And that's kind of what I was going with Jared Lyons is like he did a lot and he has some amazing stats, but I just can't see that as being a gateway back into the AFL team for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's basically got to knock out Lockie Neal, in my opinion. I don't think there's anyone else that he takes the place of.
I mean, he doesn't even replace Zorko. Like they're completely different players now.
Yeah, that's right. And I brought that up after the second VFL game as well, and you did disagree with me a little bit, but you were there at the ground. I was watching on YouTube, so but it's I guess he's just he's a good backup if someone does go down, but
he is, but he's got some big faults as well in his game. But like the reason I mentioned that guys like Dev. That they had really good games as well. So his Dev's stats weren't as good as Lions stats, but he was more explosive and he took things on and he did a few like fend offs and he set up some passages of play. Whereas I don't think Jared set up as much. He kind of just would get out to the middle, but it didn't feel like his play was as impactful as some other guys.
Yeah, so one of the things I hate seeing on socials and whatever, or just in general conversation, when people go, "Oh, he needs to go back to the reserves to learn how to play football." Like, if they're in the AFL on a list, they already know how to play football.
Yeah,
but I actually went against that and thought that Dev probably needed a bit of time in the VFL, not so much to learn how to play football or whatever, but just to get some run in his legs.
Yeah, sometimes it's a good idea to build confidence as well.
Yeah, because he had an interrupted preseason. We've talked about that already, and he obviously was still recovering from that multiple wrist surgeries leading into the start of round one or round zero, opening round, whatever.
Yeah.
So he wasn't cherry ripe coming into the start of the season as it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pleased that he's done well, though, and he's had a good game. And that, you've sort of said that it's not just the stats; it's what he did.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I guess what did you make of Brendan Ryan overall?
Look, I mean, he was our highest goal scorer. So he was handy. I mean, he can definitely kick a goal.
Yeah,
but I'm glad that he's in the team because he's good. He's handy to have just in case, but I can't see him overtaking anyone in the seniors.
Yeah, so from what I've seen of him in a little bit of football, I've watched him play at AFL level and a bit at local level here in Geelong. He's probably more of a Hipwood style player.
I didn't get that much of a good look at him and this is something that I will mention as well, is not related to this game specifically, but the coverage of the VFL this year, the quality of it is so downgraded from previous years.
Yeah,
I mean, we went from having all of them on Kayo last year to them not even all being on Channel 7 this year. And they're just on the website, and it is so choppy. And there were so many passages of play where it would it would freeze up and it would put play into slow motion for about 3 seconds, and then it would speed up to catch back up to live TV.
Yeah.
And then you would miss something that happened. So there was an example where I can't remember which specific players it was because it happened so often, but it was like one of our players had the ball and he was running down the field. He's doing a bounce and he's doing a run, and then it would freeze and would go into slow motion, and then it would speed back up and come back into play, and then suddenly the ball's in the opposition's hands and it's being run down the other way. It's like, well, what happened? Like, did he turn it over? Did he get tackled? You would just miss it because it would just be 3 or 4 seconds wasted every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
The coverage of it is absolutely garbage, and the AFL posted a massive profit last year, one of their highest profits in recent years, and it seems like they're investing less money in, particularly the VFL coverage, but there's a lot more they could be doing for AFLW as well.
Yeah, there's been a big sort of train of thought that from a lot of people that why are they spending all this money? And I don't know if they're spending any money themselves anyway on Tasmanian being the new team in the league when they could be spending the money on AFLW and VFL. Now, I don't know if the AFL is spending any money themselves. I don't know who's spending money on the Tassie team. Someone is, but yeah, look, we noticed. It wasn't one of our games. We were watching another VFL game briefly at home the other week, and the camera positioning. It was like watching the footy and cricket from the '80s, where the camera would pan and there'd be a pillar or a wall in that that one blind spot, and you'd miss it's like if you had the really cheap seats at Marvel Stadium. There's some seats up the back that you get for couple of bucks, and you got the coaches boxes or the media boxes next to you, so you can't see the forward pockets at one end.
Yeah,
and it kind of looked like that. And I'm thinking, come on, guys, same thing you said. You've got all this money, you've made a profit.
Oh, and the worst part is the streams were sponsored by companies. So Maxis Tires is paying money to the AFL for their VFL coverage to be the VFL sponsor, and I think there was a few other companies as well. And it's where's the money going? Because it's clearly not going to this. They bought one camera, 2 sets of mics, and I'm pretty sure the commentators are volunteers. I don't think that they're getting paid, or they're not getting paid much. I mean, they were a lot better this time. I liked the commentators this round. They were a lot better than the Collingwood one, according to your reports. But it just feels like there's no money pumped into it at all. I don't know where it's going, but they're getting sponsors for the VFL coverage, but the money's clearly not going there. So yeah, I hope that changes next year. I'd love to have them back on Kayo again. It's very frustrating having it only be on the website, and I have to go on my computer to do it because I can't watch it on my
You know
TV.
what?
And
Even if it was
yeah,
on the ABC or SBS or
yeah,
something,
anything.
um,
Just
it
not on the
couldn't
website
hurt.
exclusively.
Yeah, and look, I know streaming is the way that everything's going in it now. And I actually had a quick conversation with a guy who was camping near to us. He was watching the EPL, I think it might have been, on his laptop. He was watching some overseas soccer
Mm,
on his laptop, and I was like, oh, I didn't. I thought he was watching the AFL. I didn't realize that he was English and whatever. I was like,
mm.
oh, how's the footy going? And he goes, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, you're watching that football? And he goes, yeah, yeah, I'm from England and this and that, and I'm missing it. And he goes, the only problem is here in Australia, you've got to stream it through like over. You got to find like a dodgy streaming company out of India or somewhere, or
Yep.
Optus were streaming the EPL and the A League
Yep.
rather than having it on TV at one point.
Oh, the sports coverage of this country is atrocious, and especially for international sports, it's so bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else you want to say about the VFL? Obviously, I've got zero more
No,
to.
I think that's pretty much it. Everything that could be said can be said. Has been said, I should say. And then obviously we'll do another episode later in the week to preview the Geelong game that's upcoming.
Yeah. So at least we don't have to rush that one like the night before a game, which is good. We can.
Yeah, it's a Saturday night game this week, so that's good.
What I might do is, depending on what happens with Chuck, I might just jump on for a quick 5 minute and do a little short video and say this is what's happened at the tribunal if they go to it, and
Sure.
or even if you want to just record something and WhatsApp it to me or something like that.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm down with that. So I've been making a couple of little shorts to put on YouTube of some outtakes of some of the stuff that I cut out of the episodes.
Love it.
And I've come up with a little Ash Outs himself series. I've got about 2 or 3 up now, and I haven't been promoting them anywhere yet. So because I was away on the weekend.
Yep.
And also, so our episode we did about the recruiting, I've got that up on YouTube.
Yep.
I will put it on Spotify in the next 24 hours.
Cool.
And Apple. I couldn't really organise it over the weekend with no service and stuff.
Yeah, that's all good, mate.
Yeah. And
I'm actually going to the Geelong game this weekend.
Oh, well, excellent.
Yeah, so that's going to be really handy because I can give the in-person perspective. This will be the first home game I've gone to for the year. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. I don't know when my first game is going to be. But yeah, look, I reckon it'll be a cracker. And
yeah, I'm going with a ton of family, so I'm going to have to try and ignore them for the entire thing so that I can pay attention to the game. But I'm going with my dad's in town, and he bought tickets for all of my siblings and partners.
Yep.
And also one person had to drop out, so I'm bringing my best friend as well because to fill in for the ticket. So there's a good amount of us going together, so it's going to be a good game, I reckon. And Geelong's always a good game.
Yeah, there's a bit.
Not guaranteed a win, but I mean, it's going to be a good game.
Neither team's guaranteed a win, and there's always a bit of feeling as well. So
yeah.
That should be good, and it'd be good just to kick back on a Saturday night for a change as well.
Mm-hmm.
And not a Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, we do like those ones every once in a while, but not
super
often. So I just looked at the forecast. The schedule. The week after, we're back to Thursday night game.
Yeah, that's Anzac Day.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's not too much of an issue. But I still got to go to work on the day after those. So, but the game's in Canberra, so obviously I'm not going.
True, 7:30 double header because there's 2 games on that day.
Yeah, so Deb will be there.
Game.
Yeah, so Deb will be there. We'll probably. Oh, it's a Wednesday, is it?
No, we're playing Thursday. Richmond and Melbourne are playing Wednesday because there is a Wednesday game next week, but it's not.
Yeah, fair enough. So Deb's going to Canberra, so we might get her on the week after for the report for that.
Yeah,
when we do the wrap, like she was flying back to Brisbane today. She was in Melbourne for about 4 or 5 days, so We might get her on. I'll have a chat to her.
Yeah, sounds good.
Should get your dad on at some point as well.
Oh, that'd be great. He'd love that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking like, who could you get on? Because I've got like 4 or 5 people that I'd love to get on. And I thought, who could you get on? I thought, I reckon you mentioned your dad a lot, and you mentioned
my dad would have some great stories. Bears days all the way through to now. There's not many other people in my life that are big footy fans. Like, because even my mates are very casual with their footy, and a lot of them actually prefer rugby over AFL, which is not fun.
Queenslanders.
Yeah. But my best mate, who was raised in Perth, his family's big Eagles fans. But he's been a bit casual the last couple of years when they haven't been performing very well.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah, who would have thought? But yeah, there's not many other people around me that are big footy fans that I could get on.
Yeah, whereas everyone around me is like 99.999% of big footy fans, but they've got a lot more clubs to choose from. And yeah, obviously a lot of WA people, they're Eagles fans. I've got a couple of Dockers supporter friends, and I'm like,
I reckon I could get my dad on pretty easy, but that would be very interesting because he's in his 60s, so he's him and technology is not.
Yeah,
they don't get along super well.
Get him on when he's at your place. I reckon. This is definitely to wrap up now. So for the listeners, I'll have the recruiting review up on Spotify and Apple in the next day or so. And you will, once you've listened to this, you will have realised that this will be Monday night, Tuesday morning that you're listening to it. Keep listening, keep giving feedback. I'm getting some good feedback, mostly about myself.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the cheesy stuff that everyone always asks you to do, but it does help.
Yep, switch on the bell and all that sort of thing. And and again, thanks for listening. And we'll see you on Thursday night, Friday morning with our selection review.
Yep, and game preview.
Yeah, and hopefully there'll be no changes to the team, and Charlie Cameron will play.
Well, that's the one that's up in the air, isn't it? So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting week.
That's it. All right. Well, I'm off, and I'll see you Thursday.
Bye.
Have a good one.
See you, mate. Bye.
Yeah.